The purpose of the webinar today is to discuss why you should invest in HR software. Okay, so the whys of why you should invest. So I'm going to cover three things. One would be why invest in HR software. Secondly, I'm going to cover how to choose the right HR software for your business. And thirdly, I'm going to cover the most important features that you should look for when choosing a HR software. Afterwards, we can have a quick Q&A session, and if anybody would like to discuss things further with me, I will share my details at the end of the webinar. So the first reason that you should invest in HR software is that it helps you improve decision making. How does it do that? The main way is that because you have all the employee information and all the data stored centrally on a HR software platform, it means that you have access to directly correlated real-time data. What that means is that at the touch of a button, you're able to access that data through reporting, and it gives you a much quicker way to access that information. So, for example, you can run reports on hiring cycles, you can run reports on attrition levels. So, typically, what would take a HR department maybe a few hours or perhaps even a few days to collate a report for management. With the HR software, you'll be able to run and access these reports at the click of a button, so it greatly improves the decision-making process. Secondly, if you invest in the right software for your business, you should see a tangible return on investment. But how does that happen? The main reason is that it leads to substantial cost savings in terms of reduced labour costs. The reason for that is that many of the functions of HR are automated, or the time taken to complete those tasks is greatly reduced. So, for example, running payroll on a HR software can take maybe 1 to 2 hours, whereas doing it manually could take 2, 3, 4, or even 5 days. So due to the big reduction in time, then you should see a substantial cost saving in terms of labour costs. You should also see an increase in productivity, both within the HR department and the employees in general. How does this happen? Well, if you're not using a software platform, then mostly the records will be updated manually, and it can be very, very time consuming. So by automating a lot of the functions, it frees up the HR department's time to focus on their core functions rather than being bogged down just updating records and maintaining those kind of things, doing a lot of administrative tasks. There's also an increase in productivity because employees can access the relevant information through the system. So, for example, they can access their own documents, they can access company documents like company handbooks and insurance networks, etc. The ability for them to request information can be automated through a HR platform as well, which means that the employees can then focus on their core function rather than worrying about getting information from the HR department. So because a lot of it will be automated and streamlined, the overall business sees an increase in productivity. Now, the next reason is that employees feel more valued, knowing that the company take the HR seriously. It gives them the relevant tools to request holidays, access pay slips online, and it all leads to a feeling that the company is investing in employee satisfaction. It also makes scaling the business much easier. So by having a robust software and HR system in place means that it's much easier to scale because you have nice, robust workflows, which makes the way that you increase the business and scale the business a lot easier because you're basing it on very solid foundations. The other thing is that through the recruitment software, when you are scaling the business through a heavy recruitment campaign, by using a HR software that has a recruitment feature, allows you to run multiple campaigns all centralized in the one place. So it makes the recruitment part of the HR function very streamlined and straightforward. The next reason that you should invest in HR software is that if you use a cloud-based solution, it will allow employees to access the information anywhere. So most solutions now provide apps. So as long as you have a connected device, you can have access to the real-time data. So particularly if you have a workforce that is remote or is not office-based, you can communicate with those and the employees can access the information even if they're not at the head office or have direct access to the HR department. And the last reason I would like to cover on why you should invest in HR software is that it improves communication between management and employees. Now, some of the simple ways that it does that is through the leave management tools. Employees can simply request leaves, sick leaves through the app or online, and the managers can immediately in real time get a notification and access that. You can also, if the software has a performance management module, then you can set up KPIs for the employees and measure how those employees perform over the course of the year against those. So you can have set criteria on how to assess the employees against the KPIs. Some of the other nice ways that the softwares can allow you to communicate better is through company announcements and a company calendar. So if you want to make a company-wide announcement, if you do it through the HR software, then you can ensure that every single employee receives that announcement through the software by email and through the app if the software provider has one. And similarly, you can create events for the company and communicate that with employees through the software, and that would go into their calendars as well. So overall, the general communication between management and employees is vastly increased by using HR software. Okay, so the next thing that I want to discuss is how to choose the right HR software for your business. I've been working in the industry for almost 10 years and I have seen hundreds of different HR software providers. It's changed a lot over the years, but the core functions generally stay the same. Now, if you are deciding to choose some HR software, the first thing that you do, you go and do a Google search, but it can be a bit daunting because there are so many HR software providers out there. It can be a little overwhelming to decide which HR software provider is best for you. So I just want to quickly run through some key points to hopefully assist you in choosing the correct HR software. Okay, so the very first thing that you need to do is you need to determine the key requirements of the company. So basically, what do you want the software to do? Now, every company will have different key requirements. For example, one company, the key function could be payroll and running payroll each month. For another company, it could be time and attendance and rostering, and that could be linked to a biometric system. Another company could just want the basics in terms of document management and leave management, leaves and requests. So what you need to firstly do is determine what the key requirements are, what are the must-haves for the software, okay, and that's really, really important. The second, I think, biggest consideration that has to be made is whether you decide to go for a cloud-based solution or SaaS, software as a service, or an on-premise solution, which just means that the software is physically installed on the company servers. So I just want to talk a little bit about both types of options and what the straightforward pros and cons of each of those are. When we're looking at the cloud-based solution, the main benefits are that it's the financial model, it's a subscription model. So you typically pay monthly or quarterly. So it's much, much easier for a company, particularly SMEs, to budget for. So there's no large capital expenditure at the start. It's just a monthly or quarterly or yearly subscription model. The other advantages are that you can access a cloud-based platform anywhere. What I mean by that is, as long as you have a device that is connected to the internet, you simply can log in and access the information on the system. Some of the other benefits of a cloud-based system is that typically there is no annual maintenance contract because the software is hosted by the software provider and it's not stored or hosted on the company servers. And typically there usually is no high setup costs at the start. So some of the sort of drawbacks of a cloud-based system, the main concern that people have is that the data is not stored on a company server. The data would typically be stored in a level 4 data center, which is actually very, very secure. But for some companies, that can be a concern. The other consideration to take into consideration is that if you require highly customized software with very complicated workflows, then normally the on-prem solution would offer a better option for you, unless the cloud-based system is very customizable. In terms of the on-prem solution, the main advantages is that the data is stored on the company servers, and they can pay to have the software completely tailored. So if you have very specific workflows, then that could be something to consider. The downside of on-premise solutions is that there are typically very high setup fees. There's usually annual maintenance contracts. You have to pay for all customizations, and you have to pay for any updates to the software. Now, me working for a cloud-based solution, my preference is always cloud-based, because I feel that it is the future of how software will be delivered to customers now and in the very near future. That's how the industry is moving. So I would suggest that you should seriously consider a cloud-based solution. So once you've decided what your key requirements are, you've decided whether you're going for a cloud-based system or an on-premise solution, the next thing to do is to research the softwares and determine which appear to meet the main requirements. So what I would suggest is to look at as many websites, company sites as possible, request free trials where you can to assess the functionality, and look at the pricing as well. So once you have done the research on the software, the next thing to do is to determine an approximate budget for the software. Now, a common error, I would call it, a common mistake that a lot of companies make when deciding on a budget is a lot of the time they'll decide the budget before researching the price of the solution, not just in HR software, but just in general. So they can come and you can say, well, I have a budget of $20,000 and the solutions that you're looking at could be 100,000. So the budget hasn't been set accurately. So by doing the research on the companies online, you can get a feel for the pricing of the software. If it's a software as a service or a cloud-based solution, it will be based on employee size. So the number of employees in the company, you will typically pay per user per month. So you can roughly work out what the ballpark figure would be for the budget. The other thing to bear in mind is that cheapest is never best. The most important thing is that the software meets the requirements and does what it's supposed to do. So please bear that in mind as well. So once you have determined the budget, the next thing that you want to do is, I would say, invite at least 3 software providers to visit you and provide demos. This will give you a good chance to assess not only the software, but the company as well. One thing that I would recommend when you're inviting the software companies to provide the demos or to meet with you is to pay very close attention to how they deal with you as a potential customer. Do they respond to your emails on time? Do they arrive to the meeting on time? Are they polite and courteous? Now, these may seem like small things, but what they do is they give a very, very strong indication of how you will be treated as a customer, as how you are treated as a potential customer. So I would highly suggest that you pay close attention to how the company interacts with you as a potential customer. If they don't communicate on time, they don't respond to emails, turn up late for the demos, it's not a company that I personally would want to give money to, and it would be a strong indicator that you're probably going to receive that type of level of customer service as a customer, as you are as a potential customer. Okay, so now that they've turned up on time, you're happy with how they are, they've given you the demo, you've assessed the features to make sure that they work for you. The next thing to do is to discuss the level of support you will receive. Also, key thing to understand is what is the implementation process. Does it cost money? How long will it take? What involvement is there from the company? What involvement is there from the HR company side? Importantly, discuss the cost. This is the time to negotiate. Most companies usually will run promotions, so it's good to ask if there's any discounted offers, 3 months, anything at all. Now would be the time to ask. The next thing is that there will be some level of customization required. Either the software will be able to handle it itself, or you may have to pay for some customization fees. So I would be very clear at the start on any customization fees and what those costs could be. Getting good software, you also need to know how to use it. So what training will be provided and at what cost. And you also want to discuss if there's any annual maintenance fees or any hidden extras in terms of costs. So you have a very clear understanding of the price and what it will cost the business on a yearly basis. Okay. Now, once you have done that, it's time to choose the software that not only best meets the requirements, but one that you feel will give you the level of support and training required. This is very important for me. You can choose the very, very best software that matches your requirements the absolute best. But if you're not given that level of support and training, you'll never fully learn how to use the system properly, and you'll end up either not using the system, or you'll use it only to 10% of its capability. That's a very, very common thing in the software industry. So make sure that you feel that you're going to get that level of support from the HR software company to ensure that you'll get the absolute maximum value from the HR software. Okay. So the last thing that I would like to discuss is the most important features businesses should look for in HR software. Now, I'm not going to talk about features like payroll, HR systems, leave management, document management. Most of the HR software providers will provide those features in some form or another. I just want to go over some of the other sort of larger features to look for. So the first one is no one-size-fits-all HR solution. Now, what do I mean by that? Every single organisation runs their business slightly differently, and every HR department have their own processes in place. And you want to ensure that the system that you are implementing is able to be tailored to fit those needs of your particular business. You should find that a lot of the good HR software providers provide very customizable solutions, but it's important that you kind of bear that in mind when looking for the features. The second big thing for me is how easy is it to use the software? I have seen softwares in the past that you would need a book or a manual probably 3 inches thick to fully understand how to operate the system. Very, very complicated, very layered, and just difficult to use and administer properly. So choosing a HR software that you feel is easy to use is very, very important, because number one, the HR departments have to use it on a daily basis, and also you need to maximise the investment that you have made in the HR solution. So by making looking out for softwares that are easy to use is quite important in my eyes. The next thing that I think is very, very crucial to look out for is localization and local support. Now, what I mean by localization is that you could identify the perfect HR solution for your business. That HR software company is based in the United States, and the software is geared for the United States market. So when you try to run payroll in the GCC, the software has not been customized for this region. So it's very, very important to look for a solution that has the localization. Some of the localizations to look for in the GCC would be WPS in terms of payroll, the generation of HR letters. So for example, NOCs for bank accounts, credit cards. These types of things are very unique to the GCC, and only a local provider would typically be able to offer those types of features built into the HR system. If you then don't have a localized system, you then have to pay a lot of money to have it localized. So it's much better to look as a key feature to look for localization, and also local support. So if you have questions about your HR software, can you pick up the phone to an account manager and have a quick conversation? What level of support is given? If it's local support, typically the working hours are in sync with where you are. If you choose a provider from a different region in Europe, the 4-hour time difference can make communication very, very difficult. So for me, localization and local support are very, very important. Next thing to look at is the software scalable? So if you decide to ramp up your headcount and grow the business, is the software in line to handle that? Now that could mean that you decide to expand into different countries, into different regions. So you would want to identify, is the software capable of running in multiple regions or multiple locations or multiple countries? So very, very important to bear that feature in mind. Another thing for me is that with the advent of software as a service, it should make the software very, very affordable to not only small to medium businesses, but also to enterprise level businesses. So if you're an SME with a headcount of 20, you can afford to access the same software that a large enterprise would be able to access for a fraction of the cost based on the subscription model. So that affordability is something to really look out for. And the last sort of key feature now, I would say, is the employee self-service, and in particular, does the software provide an app? I don't need to tell you guys that in this day and age, everyone is glued to their mobile phones, and everybody expects to be able to access information primarily through their mobile phone. So having an app and having the employee self-service, I would say, is a key feature to look out for in terms of employee engagement. And it also demonstrates that the software provider is up to date and thinking to the future. So that is it from me, guys. I do have the 30-day free trial option, which I have started. So you should be able to see start your 30-day free trial. So if you click on that, it will give you a link where you can access the 30-day free trial, which I hope you do. So thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for listening. Now, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box, and I'll be able to answer them now. Okay, so it looks like no one has any questions at the moment. So once again, thank you very much for joining me today and taking some time out of your busy day. If you do want to drop me an email, you can do that at ryan@zenhr.com, and we could have a conversation offline if that suits. Okay, so once again, thank you very much and take care.